Hello and a very warm welcome indeed to this latest edition of Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. And my guest today is a woman who is a writer, a singer and a photographer, in fact a communicator. And one of the main things she communicates about is her truly remarkable life. So let's meet her in person, Stefanie-Lahya Aukongo. Stefanie, thank you very, very much for joining us today.
Thank you very
on
much.
Talking Germany.
Thanks.
Great to have you here. Now, just to give you some clues about Stefanie's biography, let me tell you that she's lived in what might be called a cultural triangle made up of the former East Germany, the southern African country of Namibia and present-day reunified Germany. It's a story of hope, but also of despair, of great charity and shocking prejudice, and much else besides. You're nodding, yeah?
Yeah.
I must have got something right. Stefanie, what I would like to begin with, and I didn't mention it in my introduction there deliberately, is I want to begin with where you began, with the Kassinga massacre. I think it's very important that you tell us that story in your own words.
Yes. So my parents, they were refugee fighters. They were fighters against this racism and apartheid system of the South African, and both of them, they were in a camp, so a training camp. So my father was a soldier, and my mom, she was a nurse. She was becoming a nurse, and both of them, they fell in love. And my dad was he was so in love with my mom, and he was always coming to her and say, "Oh, you're so lovely," and she said, "No, go away." And so it was always like this. And so these young people, one day they fell in love, and my mom has to leave this camp, this training camp where they were.
Explain where the camp was located. Very important.
Yes, it was in the southern part of Angola, because Angola was one of the countries who helped Namibia for their independence.
Okay, and your mum and your dad were both originally from Namibia.
From Namibia, they were in Angola, but they were original from Namibia. So, and when they fell in love, my mom becomes pregnant with me, and she had to leave this camp, and she went 2 days before the big massacre, Kassinga massacre happened. She came there, and so she was in this camp, and she only slept these 2 days. And when she woke up on the 4th of May, she heard a lot of bombs and people were crying, and she didn't know where to go. And they said, "Oh, go this way or this side." It was
the South Africans who had launched the attack, the South African military.
Yes, it was the South African people who made this attack on these people, because the South African, they are saying that it is it is a camp from the SWAPO organization, the
Southwest African People's Organization, which is the independence movement.
Of course, and they said it was a camp from the SWAPO, but it wasn't a SWAPO camp. It was a camp for women, for people who are injured, for old people, and it was there were only civil people who were there.
Okay, so there is a bit of a dispute about that, but what you're telling us, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. There were a lot of civilians there. One of them was your mother. She was pregnant with you.
Yes.
And she was struck by bullet fire.
Yes, and she when she was attacked by them, and she was very, very, very hardly injured. So hardly that that she was one of the first people who could leave this camp. So she came to Germany, to the eastern part of Germany, to the GDR, because this country were decided to help people, to help Namibia for the independence.
Okay, we'll pick up on that story, where she went next, your mother with you, unborn at that stage.
Yes, of course.
But just as I understand it, you have said, and this is I find truly remarkable, that when you talk about the Kassinga massacre, you obviously were, your mother was pregnant with you, so you weren't actually there as a born child. But you say you are still haunted by images from the massacre, although you couldn't actually see what was going on.
I don't know how it is, and I don't know how it is like this, but it's like this. So I see pictures, I see people are crying and screaming, and so because on this day it was I don't know how it is, but it is like this. So over 800 people were killed on this day, and a lot of more than 1,000 injured. So maybe I became it from my mom because maybe it was her nightmares later, or I don't know. But it's like this. So I don't know how it came. So yeah, but that's the truth.
Okay, thank you. There's one fact I need to get from you, Stefanie. You said 800 people, civilians, were killed in the Kassinga massacre. Was that including children, or was that 800 adults and then children?
It's inside. The children are inside.
So they're included in that number because there were quite a lot of children. And one of the survivors, as we have learnt, was your mother. She was brought then to East Berlin, to East Germany, and that's where you grew up. What was your first memory of East Berlin?
My first memory is the garden where I was grown up. Yeah. Because it was such a beautiful hand-built garden from my father, from my stepfather. Okay. A host father. So yeah. Okay. And so these are one of my first memories I've got in the garden.
Okay, that is obviously a very, very happy memory indeed.
Yes, of course.
Before that, something else actually happened. You were in East Berlin for a relatively short period of time. And then when I think you were about 14 months old, you and your mother had to go back to Namibia. What happened there exactly?
Okay, so the government decided that all the people who are feeling better, who were injured, has to go back to Namibia to be fighters for the independence, and so my mom was one of these, and so for me it wasn't going back because I never been there because I was born here in Berlin, but I have to go with her, and we went back to Namibia where the war wasn't over yet. The problems were the same, so I went there, and my mom, she was struggling with her own problems, her own medical problems. So she couldn't even take care of myself, and I became very, very ill during that time. And I was more than 1 year old, but I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything. So I had a lot of problems, and so my mom, she couldn't do anything.
These were because of the injuries to your mother in the massacre.
Because when I was born, there were problems. When I was born, I had a lot of problems because I couldn't get any air during the time, and I was born with a hemiparese. It's the half of your body isn't very proper, cannot work very proper. So so all of these problems, I was small, I was slow, my developing was very
okay, so that was you were taken back to Namibia in the condition that you're explaining.
Yes.
And your foster family, your host family in East Berlin, they said, we're not going to go with that. They actually fought against this. They fought for you to come back, and they went to very high places. They had a bit of influence. Tell us.
Of course. So they went to all the people, to all the ministers and all the people in every section they could go, and they asked for and tell the story. And they wrote to Namibia, even to the SWAPO people and all the institutions they could go to, and told them my story, and all of them, they said, no, we cannot do anything, she has to go back, she has to stay there, she can't go back. And so it was a really struggling time. And even now when I read these letters they wrote and all these communication sheets, who are even now they are already there, so it was really hard for them. So and there was one situation, one of my mom, because I've got 4 moms. Can you imagine this? I've got 4 moms. Yes, that's me.
I have just one.
I've got 4. So one of my moms, she met Margot Honecker, the wife
of Erich Honecker,
yes,
the leader of East Germany.
Yes, and because my mom, she is a stewardess, and she met her during a fly in Africa, and so they talked to each other. And my mom, it was Eastern time, and when during that time they made everyone in the airplane their own food, and so she made the food for Margot Honecker and put some small eggs and all these things from Germany, how they celebrate German, and she put it on a plate gave it to her. And Margot Honecker was so touched and said, "Oh, who are you? Where are you? What is your story?" And my mom, she told her the story of my life, and during that time, Margot Honecker was a minister, and so even for youth and all this stuff, and so she said, "Okay, I will do some. I will try to help you," and that's what she said.
She had a role in you coming back. I mean, it was the courage of your mum, as you're saying, but it was Margot Honecker also had a role.
Yes, of course, she is.
And you came to live in East Berlin. You've talked about the idyllic scene in the garden, the beautiful garden in your foster family, and I know that you have gone on record as saying your childhood was happy, normal, almost idyllic in the former East Germany. And childhood and adult life are very different. But a lot of people, our viewers, will be surprised perhaps with that. Because when they think of East Germany, probably the word that comes to mind is dictatorship.
Yes.
And you're sitting here and saying, well, it was a happy time.
I was grown up in a country where there was no war. I could go to school. I had a family where I was cared, and that was the state I was living.
That's important for a child, and especially for a child who's been what you had been through.
I was 11 years old when the war was broken down, and I saw the GDR as a place where I saw all this stuff. I had enough to eat, I had enough to drink. For me, it wasn't important to travel to Mallorca or to the Baltic Sea to make holiday, So as a child, I played on the beach like every child. So for me, it wasn't a different story. And my parents told me, "You could be purple. It doesn't matter. We would love you." So I didn't have any problems.
Also important.
Yes, it was okay. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about all of this: identity, Germanness, East Germanness, in just a second. We'll pick up on some of that again. Stefanie, I know it's not your side of the story, but do you understand why people become foster parents?
Why they do this?
Yeah.
I think because they want to help children. They want to give children who don't have so much chances a place where they can grow up, or where they can stay for a while in a good condition.
And do you understand the risks that they take, the emotional risks that they take by bonding with the children? Because you've been in that situation yourself. You know how it's precarious.
Of course it is, because so even in my situation, my parents, they didn't know how long I can stay in their family, and it was a real problem for them as well, even for me, because every time the government could say, "Okay, she has to go back to Namibia, so it's over now," and so you are close to this child, and you don't know how long. Takes us time.
Did you talk to them about that at the time, or have you talked to them openly about those emotions since? Because they're very complex emotions.
Of course, and I had so much fear. My fear was I have to leave this family, but I was unable to talk about it. So it was so inside myself, and I said, okay, if I talk about it, so I get some problems, and I was so fearful. So I did not talk about anybody about my fear.
And you still view them as your family now, really as your family. Yeah? What about your mother? I know she has, in the meantime, passed away, and I think, I don't know if it's the right word to use, but I think you two had become a little bit estranged, you and your mother. Did you miss her? Do you miss her?
So it's really very complicated, the situation with my mom. So she is I know the struggling she went through, and I know she made good decisions for myself, that I could grow up in this way I'm living now, and I love her for her situation and what she's been through and how she helped me. But for our relationship, it was really every time it was very complicated, and I was used to have three mothers who took care so hardly, so wonderful for me, and I know it. I realized how wonderful it is to have mothers who take care of you and who loves you unconditionally. And then I get to know my real mom, and there were so many problems, and I couldn't bring it together because I thought, they are not my real parents, but they love me, and you are my real mom, and you are treating me like this.
It's like love against biology,
yes,
almost.
It was always a fight inside myself, and even on the outside. So. But I love her, and I miss her. I miss her because I miss a lot of stories. I'm missing my past. I'm missing the place where I come from. She's the only one who can give me an answer about how was I what kind of feeling was it when you give me birth, and when I was born, and what was your first thought when you saw me, and was I how was about my when I was a baby, was I a good baby or anything like this, So I've got so many questions, and she couldn't give me the answer for that. That's why I was very sorry about that she's not here anymore.
I can understand that. Absolutely. Somewhere I read the following. I'm interested in your relationship to Namibia as well, to Mother Africa, if you so will, in the form of Namibia here. Somewhere I read in one of the texts about you, it became clear to Stefanie after several journeys to Namibia that she is a black German. Is that your identity now?
It is. So I'm an Afro-German girl, lady, woman, and so that's my that's my story. So I'm black, and even when I'm going to Namibia, so the people know. When I'm talking, when I'm walking, they know I'm not Namibian, And so I'm always between the two countries. And but it's okay. It's not... before, it was always a problem. I said, oh, my goodness, I have to decide. If I'm more Namibian or more German or anything like this. But it's not like this. So it's both. So 50%. So...
And what I'd also like to ask you, because things in Germany can be things in any culture and society can be complicated, as you know and as I know. But I'm wondering, I don't know if you can answer this in any way, but do you imagine that it's the same thing being a black German woman as it is more or less being a black English woman or a black French woman or maybe even a black American woman? Or is there something singular about being a black German?
The story of blacks in Germany, it sounds like it's a really young history, but it's not like this. So the history of blacks here in Germany is really very, very long.
That is an important point.
Yes, and it seems like it's short, but it's not short. It's really long. So there are a lot of people who came during the third, during this time, long time, 200 years or even longer, who came during that time to Germany, who worked for the former king, and who worked in this time where Hitler was there, and even before. So there were a lot of people, black people here in Germany, and for me, it's a bit, but it's a bit different because of this history we've got here in Germany. It's a different history than the history in America, for example. And these people, it's a smaller group of black people here in Germany than maybe in England or in America or even in France. Yeah. But so that's maybe different because they cannot come together to work together to help each other. But and it looks like there are only single biographies here, but it's really I think it's a different, but the history it's a long history of black people here in Germany.
Is it a method? Is it a strategy, laughing about hate, about racism?
It's a method because I think it's an easier way to bring people into a theme. But for me, it's also important to talk about later in a serious way about it, because you can laugh about it, but you have to bring the connection that it's a real...
So if a racist comment is made somewhere in your environment, somewhere in your immediate surroundings, you can laugh about it, or you can treat it humorously on condition that later you have a conversation with these people and say, hey, you're off the mark there.
So I try to. So I'm learning it. Even I'm in the process now to find a way to deal with it, because normally you're sitting there and said, "What did he say? Excuse me, what for what?" So, so I try to find a humorous way as well as a serious way to bring them the connection that there's something wrong what they said. So I'm becoming better in it.
It's probably important, because a lot of people who make racist comments aren't necessarily full of hate. They're just people who don't know any better. They're helpless people very often.
So that's why I try to bring it in that they think about it. So
in the introduction to that report, I said that it is I'm asked about Germany a lot because I'm a correspondent here, and I often say Germany is moving quite rapidly from being a mono-ethnic society that I knew 20 years ago to being a multi-ethnic society, and I think that's the good news from Germany. At the same time, there is a lot of racism still, as everywhere else, but some of it very specific to Germany. How bad would you say the situation is in Germany?
It's bad. So I wouldn't say it nicely. So it's the racism situation here in Germany is bad, in every other country as well. So
you say there are no-go areas here in this city where you and I both live.
Yes.
I'm not happy about that. What can you tell us? So, I'm not saying I'm not happy about the comment, but I'm not happy that there are no-go areas. Yeah.
So there are places I cannot go alone, and there are places where I wouldn't stand on a traffic jam and wait for the bus or anything like this. So I don't use the bus, but normally, or I wouldn't. There's situation like this, and where people are walking beside me and said, "What are you doing here? Excuse me, you don't have to belong to this place." So.
Are these places where you wouldn't go? Are they in the eastern Are they in Eastern Berlin or Western Berlin? Because you know what I'm getting at, but it's an important question. We've got to go there.
And it's difficult for me to answer, because I don't want to bring any this is right, this is wrong, this place is good. And
I understand.
This is bad.
I think our viewers understand.
That's why I don't want to give that's why it's difficult for me to give you a 100% answer. But in my opinion, is most of these places are in the eastern part. But if you are looking around at the surrounding of Berlin, and even in the western side, I wouldn't be there alone at the night as well, or in the afternoon, or but it's for my view of it, it's more on the eastern side of.
How do you explain that, given what you were saying earlier, that you could have been purple in the former East Berlin and that would have been okay?
For my parents.
For your parents, okay.
For my parents.
Yeah.
So, it's difficult. So I don't know how it became like this, where the change began. I really don't know it, but it's like this. So I don't have an answer for this. I'm asking it myself.
Describe for us, if you would. You were involved in a shocking incident. Yeah. What happened?
So I came from my university on my way home, and I was in the bus. I was sitting in a bus because I have to travel to a lot of different districts, even in the eastern side of Berlin. And I was there, and a few people came in and attacking me, and were very rude and unfriendly. And I felt I I'm not sure if I will survive this situation. It was really very hard for me, and so it was one of the hardest things that ever happened. So
it's shocking, and it's humiliating. Yeah, for you, apart from the immediate pain of being treated in that way. And it's very bad news for me because this is my city. This is the city that I live in, where my kids are growing up. But what is the best way to combat the problem?
Now I know it better than during that time, because I was I just was so silently, and I didn't went to the police. I didn't went to any official organization to talk about it. I didn't went to the media. I did not make anything during that time. Now I would do it in a different way, because I learned. I became stronger in this fact, but you have to go out. You have to talk about it. You have to deal about it. I have to. So even now, I know what I have to do in this situation. Because I just was crying and I didn't do anything. But normally, I should. Hopefully, I would do. Hopefully, it won't happen again. But I would go up and scream to everybody and talk to the bus driver and say, "Stop this bus!" And I would do more action. But I wasn't during that time. I wasn't prepared for doing anything.
Okay. Let's hope it doesn't happen again.
Hopefully.
Gospel means good news. What's the good news message from your gospel choir?
So to sing together gospel music, it's even a message for itself. So we are doing contemporary gospel and new gospel, and so the name of my choir is the Gospel Collective, and we are the only female gospel choir in Germany. So
you're the only all-female gospel choir in Germany. That's surprising.
Yes, it's really cool. So but it's really very wonderful to sing together and to transport this music to the audience, and so for me it's the best way to bring out your own feelings to
you're getting very physical as you tell me this.
Of course, really.
The physical dimension is actually quite important in gospel music.
Of course.
And it's all about swinging, in a lot of ways. Can the Germans do it? Can they swing?
So it's difficult. So, but there are a few who can.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good. So it's about singing together, it's about being together, it's about the physical thing, it's about swinging. It's also about spiritual energy, spiritual fulfillment. How important is that to you? Very much,
because it's a message they transport, and if you get the feeling that there's someone who's holding you, who's giving you peace, and for me it don't has to be only God. It can be something different, but to have the feeling that I'm carrying by someone, I'm helped by someone, I'm touched by someone, I'm moved by someone. It's a good message, and so that's what I'm thinking about it.
It is a good message. I'd like to come back to a quote that I found with one of the local Berlin newspapers. You gave an interview and you said, "I'm handicapped, I'm black, and I'm a woman. And sometimes I find my fate a burden. Sometimes I find my fate a blessing." Tell me quickly about the burden and tell me quickly about the blessing.
Yeah, so it's like So I'm blessed to have this spirituality, to have this feeling about life, to feel what is important, what is not important. So I know it, and I learned it very, very early, when I was very young. So, but it's also a burden because so the people outside, they don't feel like I'm doing. Most of them, they don't feel. So they are very hurry and they are very rough, and so for me, it's like it's difficult as well.
Thank you for sharing all and everything with us today, Stefanie.
Thank you.
Great stuff. That's all we have time for on this edition of Talking Germany with Stefanie-Lahya Aukongo. A remarkable life. It's been great sharing it with her, and I've enjoyed our company very, very much indeed. If you have too, come back next week. Until then, bye-bye and tschüss.